I co-designed a rhizomatic response evaluation framework a few lunar cycles back. And there was, it was a living lab and a speculative artifact what I designed. It was designed from adopting a modern human, feminist, speculative, participatory, and paraphysical approach. This probably could have been just like a synthesis of standards and principles and evaluation, maybe a report, probably an event. But I kind of like thought, what if we just make a swerve? You know, this idea of a deviation, a creative error within an organization that sometimes can be not that flexible. So I made this proposal in the unit and it went through. For me, it was also this deck of cards. It was an act of resistance, a prototype. I call it a prototype. The idea was to provoke, to help evaluators to rethink their practices in their everyday and imagine evaluation otherwise. So I'm going to share with you just 3 of the cards because there are many. And I think these 3 cards are kind of aligned with what we're going to do today. So, oh, wait, I need to move this because I don't see. The first one is interspecies collaboration. And each of these cards had reflexive questions, abilities we could develop, basically, and resources, and how a practice we could shift. It wasn't under permanent construction, so it's not definitive. And some of the questions that came up with these cards were, for example, interspecies collaboration is how do we position ourselves as evaluators? Are we nature? How can we practice deep, more than human listening? In reflexivity, of course, we talk about our backgrounds, biases, privileges, but some other questions were, how do I get to know what I know? Who gets to imagine alternative presence? And wait, I'm going to go to the chat because there's some, okay, so where I'll go with always spiraling pataphysics. Oh, there is a pataphysician there. Okay. It was really, it was really provocative. And it was, but it was a way to resist how basically evaluation and I guess policy design and research is usually conducted. And I thought this could be a way also to challenge the way knowledge is produced. You know, let's just not go to the report and the Excel, but just try to go in another way, in a speculative way. And the last part, interconnectedness, these pop-up questions like, how could my action as an evaluator affect the ecosystems we all live in? And these are questions that sometimes are uncomfortable to make in an evaluation or project design, but these are needed. And I'll give you an example of a practice that came up with this card. And I think in the previous session, they were talking about mapping actors and this is relating. So the practice is reflect on how we map groups of interest in evaluation and on how the needs of present and yet to come generations, human and more than human, are considered or not in the evaluation process. So basically this was like, are we considering the needs of more than humans in the frameworks or the evaluations we're doing? I don't know what you think about these kind of questions. I thought this is a pretty good example of how could we apply this into design and imagine an alternative. An artifact could be a provocation, and it could be a tool to help us challenge certain power structures and imbalances.
Hi, I'm Alexandra. To this that what you're saying, I'm absolutely like this is something I find very provoking because well, I think like everyone that works in an institution or like as you know, and as you like have like keep on saying, like, how do we like position ourselves, right? So are two things that I like. It's a comment with two sides that I want to say. One was that Louis Latour used to say, in nature you never see a human non-human human non-human like chain, and he would illustrate it like H and H, H and H. That doesn't exist in real life. There's no such thing as something that's just purely human, right? And then another thing, and this is by Olli Pitinen, and it's a quote that says, "Our body is produced and enacted in and by various relational interminglings. It's precisely through the grouping of diverse materials and bodies that we do not only come to have a body, but that we are also a body, something bounded yet connected to our environment." And for me to understand this, and for me to like kind of try to embrace this, my biggest idea, or my biggest like kind of like ruling principle would be that to be is to be connected. And that I think is something that like uh answers every single one of the questions, or that can like trigger one of the answers to the questions. And that's my
Oh, thanks for the intervention and the quotes. Can I ask you to later copy paste them on the chat so everyone can read them? Because I think that was really important. And I agree what you say. I like that you mentioned interconnectedness, body, kind of like body, that it's not a body, it's not human, or it's not human or non-human, you know, it's just a shapeshifter, we could say.
yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Okay, there's another comment here. It says, okay, this is yours. And Ramya, I hope I pronounce it correctly. It's
We
not
have
also
a hand raised, Mila.
Sonia, right? Sonia?
Yeah, hi. Is it okay to ask a question now?
Yes, I guess. I cannot answer later.
Yeah, maybe it can just be something to have in the back of our minds. I guess because I'm thinking a lot about more than human connection at the moment, and I always wonder about, you know, anthropomorphizing, like, and that when we just attribute human characteristics to natural beings, and then that can also project our own power dynamics onto the world around us. So I'd love to explore a bit or hear what you and others have to say about what different ways are there of imagining what are the needs of more than human beings.
Okay, I'm gonna leave that because I think it's really connected to the two experiments we're gonna run. So thanks, Sonia. You can ask again, but I think we're gonna work on that. And I wanted to read this comment. It's from Ramya. Loving the palimpsest approach to slides. And oh, thanks so much. Also, evaluation is a field that needs more possibilities, and status quo often upheld by the field. Yeah, definitely. Public policy too. Okay, and there is a question for Sonia in the chat. Sonia, if you want to answer. So we're gonna run two experiments, and in these two experiments we're gonna explore who are we in more than human worlds, and what radical movements could we practice in our everyday. So let me there, and I have to move things around my screen, so sorry. There, okay. Sonia, your hand is still raised. Do you want to add something, or just okay? So today we're going to do practice an ecological anomaly. So if you're ready, I ask you to maybe take a deep breath, maybe move a bit. I have to move because I realize that when I start speaking, sometimes I do like this. I don't know if everyone do that, but it's good. And I'm going to open a portal. So we were lucky and we found a portal that's going to take us to an alternative present in a wetland. Okay, but before we cross that portal, I wanted to take this quote with you. It says, those who dream only of themselves never get out of themselves. And in that case, the world becomes too small. I'm going to repeat it. It says, those who dream only of themselves never get out of themselves. And in that case, the world becomes too small. And this is a quote from David Kopenawa from the Anomaly people. I wanted to take this with you while we go through the portal. And I'll open this just for a short period because it gets a lot of energy. And I wanted to keep in mind that once you cross, you might not experience this other reality as a human being, okay? There's no certainty. I don't know what we're gonna happen. We just know that it's a wetland somewhere in an alternative present. I'm gonna invite you to, while you're there, to notice what, how, where, and when encounters happened. And I want you to go beyond what you see. Remember that we talked about noticing at the beginning of this encounter, where that would imply that we try to feel textures, tastes, smells, think, or identify who and what is in this place. Who or what lived or might have lived. How are these beings designing this world? And how is really important questions like how are these encounters, relations happening? Do you see any tracks of prints that you recognize or not at all? And how do you feel while you're there? I know these are a lot of things to keep in mind, so I'm gonna copy paste them there on the chat so you have them. You can take a minute to read them again. And once the portal is closed, we are going to come back and we are going to have a conversation about what we feel, see, and what this alternative present is telling us, and to unravel some more inhuman stories. Okay, so I'm gonna open the portal. So I'm gonna stop sharing there. And I wanted to ask you if someone wants to share what they think this alternative present is telling us. Yes, Julieta.
Hello, everyone. I really liked the portal. I felt I think I felt very small, and I also felt what it would feel like to look at things from the ground upwards, which is different for me as a human. And I think the sound experience is also a reminder of obviously non-human creatures and beings in this world, but of the constant flux of life and how things and sounds are always shifting throughout our day, but we rarely notice. Thank you.
Thank you. It's when you say like the sound shifting, it reminds me of conversations that maybe we are not able to grasp, but still.
Exactly.
Someone else would like to share? Yeah, Alexandra, I'm not sure if you're.
Yeah. Hard to shut me up. Well, I noticed a couple things, right? I really enjoyed this portal because yes, it's first of all, it's sorry, I have to show you my I have a little nest of birds outside the window, like he's outside listening to this meeting. But first of all, the perspective from which we're looking at, right? Like as Julieta commented, we're looking up, right? And we're looking at like, it makes you feel small. But at the same time, like when you're looking down, and this is where I let my imagination roam, and I don't know exactly, and probably you said it, but and I missed it, where this was filmed. I was thinking like, what if there was like an ant there, like an oso hormiguero, and like, you know, all like there's signs of disruption, but there's also signs of things that can become things that are not there, or that are there, and the affordances of things. Like for example, that shoe, like and I have a particular liking to clothing and a relationship of clothing as technology and how we relate to the world. But I thought, first of all, I was like, how did that shoe get there? But once I passed that, I was like, that shoe can become a house, right? That shoe can become the environment for another creature, right? Something can grow inside of it. Like, and the textures and like all these things that like allow us, like we're not touching them but we're seeing them, right? So we know it's rock, we know it's like that there are so many things that happen there are signs, those like the ruggedness of the trees or like the things on the trails, they are signs that something has happened there before. Like whether we see it as untouched, it's not really untouched.
Exactly. I guess I don't know if you also noticed this, but there is depth, right? We were talking about temporalities, and this shoe or a tree that was like perfectly cut and it was being observed. That is sign of relations of domestication, of control, past relationship, but that still persist in this alternative present. Someone else notice something else? Any that calls your attention? There's one way of imagining, so please jump in.
I heard
I
a
noticed.
sound that
I don't know if it's I never remember which is the sound that sounds like a seesaw, like a building tool, like which is an insect, I think, or something that I'm in nature here and I never hear it, and in Argentina you hear a lot. I never remember what it is, but it always makes me think of the city and construction, even though it's yeah, I think an insect or no sé. I don't know if it's a chicharra or something like that, but yeah, that sound is always. Yeah.
It is a chicharra, but I don't know how to say that in English.
No, chicharra. I don't know.
Thanks, thanks for that. Anyone else? What about, have someone had any comments on the light, for example, the light that was coming in into the vegetables, into the plants? here. I guess Sonia is right. Yes, please.
Yeah. First off, I noticed also kind of imagining if I was seeing everything as like a small animal as well, like looking up at things. And then I noticed how many of the things in nature I don't, as a human, really notice often because it's just a part of it. But then it reminded me of when I was a child, I'd go and stand in the woods behind our house and imagine experiencing everything as an animal or how animals see things. And I'm like, what would the light look like to them? Like, do they try to, like, are they nocturnal? Do they avoid it? Do they go towards it? Like, and so I kept finding myself saying, like, oh, would that be overwhelming to an animal? Or does an animal even perceive that? Or is it just part of their world? And so I really enjoyed it because it kept reminding me of my curiosity as a child, desperately wanting to know if when the birds sang to each other, like if they were talking like humans would talk, or if it was some kind of other communication that we just can not comprehend. So I really enjoyed it.
That sometimes we could miss. And there was a sign at the end of the video, but it was in Spanish, so I'm going to translate that. It says something like a Center of Environmental Interpretation. So this is linked to what you were saying, this idea of the connections and maybe rewilding, because the story is telling is that there is a wetland. Alexandra, you asked what place was it? It's the wetland. And then this wetland has a memory that is linked to the machines and, you know, the stories of ecological destruction, control, domestication. And then we're back to this idea of interpreting, of trying to understand what the needs of modern humans are, understand us ourselves as nature and shapeshifters, I guess, and well, that, right? Understand that there is ecological exploitation, but there are also relationships of care, of growth. What else? Oh, changed matter. I was talking about the light. I was asking if someone noticed the light, the air. I don't know. Have someone? Because we tend to focus on things like, okay, plants, okay, I don't know, the tree. But what about the air? What about the light? These are interacting with the plants, and that energy is transforming into matter. Okay, I think that could be some kind of collaboration, something similar to what we were observing with the ants. I don't know. I'm just like saying things. I don't know what you think about it.
I think so too. For me, the light and the sound. I think the word in English for the sound of the insect is cicada, if I'm correct. And I think particularly the light and the sound, it just really took me to my childhood when I was in a town near Mexico City with my grandparents, and it also took me to a place that I've never been to, which is Greece. But I love a novel that I always read every year, and the sound of the cicada and the way that you're describing the light there is always present in the way the author is writing that novel, which is a novel about Corfu, written by the Darls. So it really makes me think how sound and light can also take you to an imaginary place, you know, because it's imaginary for me in the sense that I've never been there, but still it's real, you know, and it builds a world around me where I also exist, which is the place of the novel. I don't know if it makes sense.
Because when we are imagining, we are creating. I think it's mixed, you know.
Yeah.
In the chat, Samista, again, sorry if I mispronounce it, says, I felt really angry towards the loud noises at the end. yes, that was like a break, you know, it was a memory from this wetland. And there was a quote there from Yahna Aguilar. She's a Misha activist, and she was saying that time falls through us. It's vertical. It's another perception of time, which I think it's represents also what this wetland was trying to communicate or tell the stories. So I'm going to share again, if someone wants to add something, but I'm going to share again my desktop, this time with sound, just in case. Okay, and we are here, so wait. We already went through this. So the question is, what are these stories about? And these stories are about movement, about power imbalances, about controlled domestication, but stories also of caring. Someone was saying that they felt warmth with the light, about emotions and how interconnected we are with more than humans. I think it's also about shape-shifting, rewilding. And what we can see is that noticing, which is something we don't practice that much, but noticing and imagining are radical movements, because we are going beyond what we see. And it's actually what Maria Puig de la Bella Casa, I don't know if you're familiar with her work, but she says this is an ecological anomaly. An anomaly is something that is different in an homogeneous system. So what could be an anomaly in our everyday, an ecological anomaly? And I always come back to this idea of what if I'm a creative ethnographer and I work a lot with public policy. So my question always, I think I always go back there. So what if instead of designing project and working with resources, we work with sources of life? And this is a concept from Mina Salami, right? It would be shift completely how we design and co-design alternative presence. I guess the question would be, what makes more than human happy? That would be another ecological anomaly if we start asking ourselves in our home, in our everyday relations. And that's not my question, that's a question from Alana Bartola and Amanda White. They're two artists who ask what makes the soul happy. And another anomaly, I guess it would be shape-shifting. Shape-shifting is a phenomenon. We saw it's a creative error, like the non-workshop. It's an ecological anomaly. It's a syzygy, which is an exceptional alignment within a system. It's another movement. But this is the funny part, is that it is an alignment, but at the same time, it is not, because, you know, it's like what we, Alexandra, I think you were saying, we're moving, we're vibrating. And for me, shape-shifting is movements so incapable of restriction, it seems impossible. So I wanted to invite you to think how could we practice these radical movements, the movements that we saw in this exercise, those movements that talked to act, speak to act. And this is our last experiment. I would like you also to keep posting or pictures or quotes on the chat. Open the mic, feel free to do that. Are you ready for the last experiment? Yeah, okay. So I think there. This is an invitation to mock human exceptionalism. And I want you to explore and think about how could we shift our everyday to collaborate with more than humans. And here, please think of collaboration in the way you interpret it. It could be like pretty different. For me, collaboration implies collective and self-care. So, for example, cultivating a garden, it is a way to shift the practices. It's a way to learn and practice caring. So that's something I'm innovating too. One of the speakers in Women Who Futures told me, "Oh, you're a grower." I was like, "Yeah, I guess I am." So that's a practice I'm working on. So it doesn't have to be a practice related to your job. It could be related to your family, friends, your neighborhood, any practice. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna read the question again, and I'm gonna give you some alone time to identify just one practice you'd like to shift, considering this idea of temporalities and trying to go beyond what we see, reflect about this question. And after that, we are going to go in breakout rooms, and I'm gonna ask Thais and Abril to help me with that.
Yes. How many people do you need in each room?
I guess 5 or 6 is okay. In
Okay.
each. And once you're in the breakout rooms, you're gonna share the practice within the group and pick one practice you want to share when we're back together. I'm gonna copy paste all the practice I'm gonna invite you to copy paste all the practice in the main chat. So if someone in the team in the group wants to type all the practices you're mentioning, that would be great. And if you don't find a practice and you get into the breakout room, just don't panic. It seems something simple, but it's not at all. So maybe you can listen to other people and get inspired and find a practice for your own. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes for a long time.
Okay. I will open the rooms if that's okay.
Yeah, thank you.